In delivering the oath to Whyalla on behalf of elected members, we, the Whyalla Council members, commit to serving the community of which we are a part, and will work together diligently and collaboratively to create a prosperous future in which we all can share. Our obituary notices, I do invite those that wish to or can to please stand, followed by a moment's silence. We pay our respects to Christian Cruz, Tristane Edwards, John Smith, Norman Coulter, Stephen Harding, Genevieve Tamala, Renee Grimes, Michael Grantham, Marguerite Andrew, Vincent Crook, Robin Wilson, Gwenda Pittman, and Victor Edwards. Thank you. Item 4, our attendance record. Apologies, we have none. Leave of absence, we have none. Item 5, council member and executive declarations. 5.1, conflicts of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest to declare?
I'm item 14.4.1 about the EPA and the waste.
I have a conflict at late report item 20.2. Conflict of interest involves matters relating to my personal contract here at work.
Thank you. There are no further conflicts of interest to declare. 5.2, any gifts and benefits to declare? No gifts or benefits, thank you. Item 6, the minutes of the previous meeting. 6.1, confirmation of the minutes of the previous ordinary council meeting held on Monday, 18th of November. We have a recommendation. We've had the minutes. Moved Councillor Knox, seconded Councillor Simpson. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you. Item 7, matters adjourned or laid on the table. We have none. Item 8, deputations, nil. 9, petitions, nil. Item 10, public question time. Do have some questions to read out and answer. From resident Mr. Nick Antonio. Question 1, does Mr. Commons get 1 week's extra annual leave? The answer is yes. Next question, what does this equate to in a monetary value? The answer, 1 week's salary has a value of $4,582. The next question relates to the briefing meeting on the 12th of December 2024 at the Nest in relation to creating local business opportunities. Question, were all councillors formally invited to the meeting mentioned? Answer, all councillors were forwarded an email advising that they were most welcome to attend the economic stimulus breakfast held on Thursday, 12th of December 2024. However, due to the nature of the breakfast and the intimate numbers in attendance, it was deemed advantageous to not overwhelm industry numbers and have the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Senior Administration staff in attendance representing Council to be present for the networking opportunity and Q&A session. Question, was the meeting mentioned put into councillors' calendars? Answer, no. The next question relates to the recent deputy mayoral election that was conducted at the previous general meeting. Question, does the council take responsibility for the lack of professional conduct taken for this election? Answer, The election of the Deputy Mayor was undertaken in a manner prescribed by the Local Government Act 1999, that is, in a way which removes any discretion by the Council in dealing with the same. Question: is this election currently under any internal or external investigations? Answer: given the process was undertaken in a manner prescribed by the Local Government Act 1999, there is no need for any internal or external investigation. Thank you. Item 11, council members' activities. You have the activities up on the screen now, as well as obviously in front of you. Opportunity for anybody that wishes to add to it, or if it's not there. No, thank you very much. A very busy, active, all councillor members busy and active. Item 12, presentations. We have none. Item 13, committee reports, nil. Item 14, reports from council officers. 14.1, the Office of the Chief Executive, ordinary reports. 14.1.1, the Chief Executive Officer's action report, December 2024. As you will be aware, the CEO is still on annual leave and is represented by the acting CEO. Take that report as read. Does anybody have any questions that we may be able to answer? Deputy Mayor Border.
In relation to the fauna park, is there anything left to make it safe, or are we happy with the works that have been done there so that that's no longer a, are we happy with the level of risk currently there?
The works have been completed and we are happy with the level of risk there. Colin, did you want to add anything in the context? There will be another inspection of the site in terms of Safe Work SA, and I think that is occurring tomorrow. So after that meeting or after that inspection tomorrow, we'll certainly be able to give you further information as needed, but we're not expecting that there to be any further issues.
Thank you. Councillor Knox.
A meeting with PPI Funds Management. Does anybody know what that was about?
Unfortunately, no. We can take it on notice if you have a particular question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Who did I miss? Right.
So that meeting was in relation to the previous application for rate capping, and the decision was made by council. They wanted to provide some feedback on that decision, and they provided another letter. Didn't make it quite in time for this council agenda, but we can bring that back at the January meeting.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, we have a report. Would somebody care to move it? Deputy Mayor Border?
Happy to move the report. I've just realised I've got one other question about the dry zone. What direction are discussions pointing us in currently, and acknowledging that new information could alter that direction? But I've just had a number of reports in the community about a more urgent action that they would like to see. So I just wondered what direction are we going, and we were considering a number of ways forward, whether it's an expansion of the existing dry zone or other options which we were investigating. Where are we pointing at the moment?
I'm happy for our manager of city development to provide an answer.
I would like to declare a conflict and leave, if that's okay. Thank you. Thank you. We met Monday of last week at the Westlands Hotel with the bottle shop and hoteliers throughout Whyalla. We also met with state government representatives and a group from the service providers who currently provide services in Ceduna and Port Augusta for things like return to country programs that they have for Indigenous persons. The hotel groups, Westlands in particular, reported that although it's visual, that they're actually not doing anything, like it's not impacting their business. As such, they've got issues with teens, like teenagers, sorry, and they're like running through and stealing stuff and whatnot, and police response to those sorts of nuisance behaviours, but theft. I think at the moment what they've decided to do is to they're using the services bought from Adelaide that do service Ceduna and Port Augusta and trying to implement those programs here. They have returned 10. I think there were 10 persons that were returned to country. The thing that was brought through mostly is that there's some family and some friends where they stay at property. The tenants of those properties are concerned with behaviour happening at their place of tenancy, and like complaints from neighbours and the like may result in them having their tenancies revoked. So they don't like to have social behaviours occurring in their properties. So they're going out during the day, not dissimilar to when they used to meet in the parks and the like. There are an increase in transient population coming to Whyalla through Alice Springs, Port Augusta, AP Whyalla and Ceduna, those sorts of things, with some unrest, and some issues that they're having. But they are working positively and have had some success recently with returning some persons back to country, to their place of original settlement. So what we got, Gail, if I've missed anything, that it's not a watch and wait, but it's using those services at the moment to see how they can support those people returning back to where they've come from.
Thank you. I would just like to mention just the feedback that I've been getting from the community, a number of community members around that issue. And I'd just like to put that into this space here, that there's very young children that are unsupervised running onto the road on McDowell Stewart Avenue. There are adults in traffic that don't seem to have an awareness of the immediate dangers that they are in. And there have been near misses already. There's noise of arguing and shouting that escalates as the day goes on. We've heard it before, but rubbish being left on public and private property. And I've been told repeatedly that as I encourage community members to report these things to the police, that they're being responded to by the police saying that there's nothing we can do. The dry zone needs to be extended, and that's been a common theme that's kept coming back to me. And I'd also like to understand better how things have worked with what Port Augusta introduced a number of years ago in their community, and just gather some feedback and kind of put an urgency on this, because it doesn't seem to be getting any better. And yeah, I just don't want a tragedy that none of us do want a tragedy to happen. And I guess when I heard those reports, I just thought it needs to be discussed in this forum.
Yeah, and I think that was a consensus around the table, that there had been a lot of people had seen young children, playing quite close to what is a 4-lane busy stretch of road, and rubbish and those. Although it doesn't look great, the small person's behaviour is probably the most alarming. Extending the dry zone. So Michael Ball from SAPOL was in attendance, talking about moving the dry zone, and then the discussion evolved to, moving that problem out, further, although it's quite visual where it is at the moment. By moving the dry zone, then that issue then goes to the edge of that dry zone, and that's pushing it. So it was really discussed about the services that are available, so that persons aren't in those vulnerable environments. Decanting of product also, they talked about the availability. Some, I think Port Augusta don't sell 4 and 5 litre casks anymore, and neither does Ceduna, whereas we in Whyalla still have those available, and they are decanting into Coke bottles and Powerade bottles and the like. And then when they've done that, they're actually able to go within the dry zone, because it's not as visual. You're able to put a bottle in your pocket, and they often sit and wait for a bus at Westlands or the like, or have created some disturbance. The couple that were up from Adelaide who worked with the State Department to do the return to country and those other services that are provided in Ceduna and Port Augusta did say, that the vocal, like the noise, the yelling and whatever, is just how they communicate. On land, that they are, the hotels and the like are not able to take record. Well, the system doesn't allow them to take record of where those people are from. So although you can see their name, you can scan it in and it does that 24-hour, they weren't able to, unlike Port Augusta and Ceduna, they don't hold that dry lands So if a person from a dry land comes to Port Augusta and tries to purchase alcohol, they're restricted. They can't do it because they're from a place where you can't take alcohol into. So they're actually restricted. What they did say is that the impact for the bottle shops and the hoteliers in Port Augusta is they have a turnover of their staff of about 200%, because if I'm able to buy something and I'm from Port Augusta, and then someone who's from a dry land attempts to buy something, the escalation of abuse and violence for those people who are restricted, and then the staff members often aren't suitably trained to deal with those sorts of conflict. So they're seeing staff turnover about 200%. We don't have that issue here yet because we don't have that, and it doesn't appear from those conversations that they thought it was a necessity to introduce that dry land restriction into Whyalla at this time.
Would it be of interest to members to have these service providers and representatives from SAPOL come and have an information session with you?
Yes,
Yes.
Joan,
Yeah.
happy to arrange that.
thank you. And I did just want to query one thing. In the simple way that I look at it in my head, if there's a dry zone that's on the boundary at McDowell Stewart and someone can buy alcohol and legally drink it on the other side of the road, pushing that boundary back or a citywide ban, which I realise is a significant time-consuming step, and there's multiple factors in that. Right, I just query pushing the problem further away. I would suggest also that's going to probably reduce the problem because there's more barriers in the way of accessing the alcohol. And so I know that I've heard that a number of times that it's just going to shift the problem. But I would suggest that is there any data backing that it's not going to make any difference?
No, look, I think the consensus in the room is that the bottle shop owners, so the Bayview's new bottle shop, no issues. The Air Hotel, no issues. The Spencer, no issues. The Bayview, no issues. So those hotels that are a far reach away from where persons are residing at the moment aren't experiencing this. It isn't impacting their business as we speak. So it is BWS, Liquorland, the Westlands Hotel at Westlands in particular. I don't even think the Liquorland at the old Woolies, the Viscount Avenue Woolies, is feeling the impact. So it really is. So it makes a good point that if you do, then yeah, it's a longer stretch to get to to buy alcohol. Whether you just get a taxi or I'm not sure.
So is there finality to this? Like, have we decided on a direction, or are we still discussing?
No, at the end of the meeting, I think it was a watch and see. So we've had the new services that are providing that service and have had some success. So they were looking at how they ramp up that return to country, because it doesn't appear that it is local folk who are residing there. It is persons from out of town who've been displaced for whatever reason.
So a way forward is to have that presentation and an information workshop, and then we can bring a report to council.
Sounds good. Thank
I
you
think
very
a
much.
very good idea. Right, if there's no further discussion there, I got in first, Deputy Mayor Border, you were moving,
Yeah, happy to move.
and I thought I saw another name. Would somebody care to second it? Oh, sorry, Councillor Knox. You're seconding? Thank you, Councillor. I put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. We hope there's no more lightning to take the lights out. Item 14.1.2, the Upper Spencer Gulf Regional Assessment Panel. We have a report and a recommendation. If anybody has any questions or comments, I will refer them to the acting CEO. Councillor Knox.
I just really want to know do we think the system is working effectively? And I guess also that are we recovering any of our costs from the other councils that are members?
We certainly are sharing equally with the other member councils, with by far and away the majority of development occurring in Whyalla. We are it'll be interesting when it transitions to Port Pirie, if they can find a panel, but I'm very satisfied that we're delivering on the outcomes that we agreed to in setting up this regional assessment panel. Is there anything further you'd like to add, Jodie?
Deputy Mayor Border,
Happy to move it.
you're going to move. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, councillor Todd. If there's no further question or discussions, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 14.2, Corporate Services Ordinary Reports, 14.2.1, the monthly budget report for November 2024. Before I call for movers and seconders, if anybody has any questions or comments, I would imagine I will defer them to our finance manager. Councillor Klobuchar.
Grant, on page 46, it shows an increase or a variance in curbside collection for $107,000 or 12%. What's that relating to? Is that tonnage and number of bins? If so, have they increased that much?
I mean, this has been a challenging budget area over the last couple of years, so we probably have been a bit short budgeted for a few years based on tonnages and that coming up. So that's one item we're managing through the budget process. When we bring back the Q2 budget review, it was actually an item brought to council a couple of months ago where we spoke about where some extra grant funding, like an increase in our financial assistance grants, was going to be targeted. So waste is probably one area where we are a bit under budgeted as a council because of changes over the last few years. So that's where those funds will be targeted. So we'll update this report once we've brought some information back to council in the Q2 budget review. But yeah, so it's been, as I said, it's been a budget area over the last probably 2 to 3 years where tonnages have sort of crept up over time. And yeah, our budgets probably haven't kept up with the tonnages as they've been.
So this is within the last 6 months?
Yeah, so this is this year's budget, but as I said, it's been a sort of a recurring one for the last 2 to 3 budget years. So it's one area where when we spoke in the audit committee meeting, spoke about sort of resetting a few of our budget areas where we are probably a little bit under budgeted, where our increases in budget have not kept up with the actual increase in costs. And this is one of those areas. So we'll bring some information back to council in that Q2 review, but also during the budget process.
Thank you. Councillor Knox.
Just quite concerned on page 47, the capital works is only 9% to date of the works that were planned. That to me is a real concern.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite low. I mean, there are a few large items in there that can't start until we get grant funding. So we know that we budgeted for them, but we know that they're probably maybe retiming into future years. So, for instance, anything at the Foreshore Plaza is subject to a current grant application. We budgeted this year for works at the rec centre in terms of like solar and energy efficiency. Also waiting on a grant application that we expected announced in September, and despite conversations with them, they still haven't actually announced the grant yet. So things like that. Obviously the runway, we've got some of the funds in there, commencement of the runway project, and while we're doing design work, we haven't undertaken obviously any of the construction work. So there are a few big ones like that. You know, the only really large projects occurring right now probably are like the childcare centre, the finalisation of the stage 1 of those works. And yeah, so I agree that the percentage is quite low, but there are a few large items that just can't get underway because of various reasons.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Following on Councillor Klobuchar's comment, I had a similar comment. I referred to September's monthly activity report that we could conduct an audit of extra bins that people are putting out. The council to conduct an audit along with the auditor. Have we done that, or have we had any results from that audit?
I'll take that question on notice in terms of the audit of the extra bins. I know that certainly we have been monitoring extra bin lifts quite significantly, but I will take that one on notice, and we can present a report back to the January meeting to give details and data.
Thank you, councillor. There are no further questions or comments. We have a recommendation. A call for a mover, councillor Knox. Seconded, councillor, well, Westerman's name was there.
Was it,
Then
you win.
councillor Inglis pushed her off. So I'll go with councillor Westerman. We have a motion. Put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. (14.2.2) the review of the CEO's annual report on the effectiveness of the organisation's culture. In the absence of the CEO, if anybody has any questions or comments, I will refer them before we look for a motion to the acting CEO. Councillor Knox?
I have two. On page 51, it talks about the review of council reward and recognition program. I'm just wondering what rewards and recognitions are provided.
Sue, would you like to answer that? Do you want to repeat it, councillor Knox? Can you repeat the question, councillor Knox?
Say that again, sorry?
Can you repeat the question?
Repeat the question, yeah. Okay. Page 51 is the review of council reward and recognition program. I'm just wondering what rewards and recognitions are provided. Okay. The second question is, and it concerns me, this one, it talks about a consistent decline in conscientiousness. Is that a concern? I think it should be.
Yes, that is a slight concern, and that the organisation is working on that. We are yet to have the 2024 Pulse survey to know whether that's increased or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Knox. Any further questions? Otherwise, we have a report. Could I call for a mover, please? Move councillor Klobuchar, seconded councillor Simpson. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 14.3 City Growth Ordinary Reports. 14.3.1 Community Grants. We have a report which I'll take as read. Any questions or comments, councillor Knox?
I was going to move the recommendation.
Right. And Deputy Mayor Border?
I'll second it.
You're seconding it? In that case, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 14.4 City Infrastructure Ordinary Reports. 14.4.1 Consultation on EPA Waste to Resource Policy Discussion Paper. A very lengthy part of the agenda with a lot of background information there as well. If we have any comments or, oh, thank you, councillor. Are there any comments or questions? I'll refer them in the first instance to the acting CEO, councillor Knox.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway because it's worthwhile keeping it in our minds. Is there any intention in all of this lengthy report to possibly return the hard waste levy which is collected to the council area so they can improve their services rather than spending the money on sand replenishment in the metropolitan area?
Thank you, councillor. I think that's it. We can put, or through administration, they are looking for input. So anything like that that's raised tonight, we can put forward in the submission to them. A good point.
Most happy to do that. Every opportunity we get, we sing that song. So most happy to.
Deputy Mayor Border.
Oh,
Border.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Just noticing that many questions on the survey are not filled yet. That's because that's waiting for our input. Just confirming that one, which I know was probably obvious. But also the landfill bins, so the request for heavy government funding, I was happy to see that, if I understand that correctly, that we are putting to the EPA that we are requesting government funding for that. Do I understand that correctly? Yep, very happy to see that. And also just, again, keeping it front of mind that waste disposal is 20% of our council rates. And if we want to make a dent in that, I think that that's a big chunk that we should educate the community about through creative means. And I'd love to see this as an opportunity to draw from the EPA their recommendations and suggestions of how we do that to get people putting things in the right bin so that they can see that they're not throwing their money literally in the wrong bin. So however we can do that to leverage this opportunity would be great.
Have you got anything further to add? Have you got anything further to add? No. I'll just add one of our submissions will relate to, just to give you some figures. Waste management as a framework and the 3-bin system and the food system is all developed in the city, and their percentage of total council budget can be as low as 4%, 6%. When you correctly pointed out ours is up to 20%, we actually need to get a little bit stronger in the way we advocate for how regional areas are treated in terms of funding programs, and what it would mean for us to gain benefit for our community is entirely different to how it operates in a city context. So one of the advocacy points will be that the state rearranges and alters the way in which it incentivises and changes systems for regional townships. That discrepancy in the percentage of budget alone, coupled with all the other things we are required to manage, from airports to 2 marinas to childcare centres, etc., puts us in that ASCOSA declared unfinancial sustainable position. And it is because the systems and frameworks and the policies that are set in the city don't apply in the regional context.
Just adding to that, the EPLGA have been pushing this for greater fairness for a long time. And in fact, recently at the latest meeting, in some discussions, there was an example given to just show how city-centric those that devised the regulations were saying to some of the smaller councils, well, can't you use the one truck to go here, here and here in the one day? It was then pointed out the distance between those towns. So by the time the truck got there, did the cleaning, only one town. But sitting back in Adelaide, they see, just look at a map, oh, we'll go to all 3 on the one day. Doesn't work. So yes, we'll certainly be pushing that aspect. Thank you for the input. Any further comments or questions? Otherwise, we have a recommendation. Would somebody care to move that? Deputy Mayor Border? Moving. Seconded, Councillor Todd. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 14.4.2, jetty maintenance cleaning. A report there. Again, we'll take it as read. If you have any questions or comments, I'll refer them in the first instance to the acting CEO. Do we have any questions? Deputy Mayor Border?
Just observing, so Whyalla Dive Services have completed ultrasound testing and noted the integrity of the poles have not been compromised. This is very good news. Thank you for confirming.
Councillor Simpson.
It'll be interesting to hear Mr. Sharp's view on cleaning the pylons or not cleaning the pylons, because I've done some reading since Alan Hall's comment. And there's an article which I picked up from Malaysia that says we should clean, because the glue that crustaceans use to glue themselves to steel eats the steel. And you've done the whole work. What's your view?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. Look, I'm no scientist, but there's 2 options here. So we're reaching back out to the engineers to clear up the matter in regards to the information they give us, because on one hand, absolutely it protects the pylons scientifically, while the Dive Service also, by removing it cosmetically, noticed that the pylons were damaged and repaired them. And to apply the paint product, you have to actually clean the pylons to apply the paint product, which protects it. So it's a bit of an oxymoron. So we're clearing that up with the builders, and we're going to make sure that the maintenance regime going forward is clear and there's no ambiguity in regards to barnacles or no barnacles. And that's the process going forward. And we've actually got received contact back from them today, and they're working on that on our behalf.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Otherwise, we have a report with a recommendation that we note the jetty maintenance cleaning report. Would somebody care to move? Moved councillor Inglis, seconded councillor Westerman. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 15, information decision reports. 15.1, council members. 15.1.1, the mayor's list of engagements. Anybody has any questions or comments? Councillor Knox.
Just a question on the meeting with Epic Energy. Is there anything that's come out of that for the community?
That was sorry. Yes. I haven't got back the notes to you. It's sort of been busy. What I have to do is just circulate their website details. It was very much public information, just updating us. I specifically asked about sharing it with elected members, and they said the link there to their website will provide everything.
Just to be clear, it's the Moomba gas pipeline, not the
Yes.
hydrogen gas pipeline, and it's a maintenance of the Moomba gas.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, yes, so I just haven't sent you the details yet. I'm sure my EO will now remind me tomorrow. You've already got it down. Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'll put the motion to receive and note the mayor's list of engagements. Moved councillor Pond, seconded councillor Todd. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 15.2, corporate services, city growth. 15.2.1, the monthly information report for December 2024. Another lengthy report of a whole heap of information. So if anybody has any questions or comments, in the first instance, I'll refer them to the acting CEO. If there are none, does somebody care to move the recommendation? Move councillor Knox.
Yes.
Seconded Deputy Mayor Border.
Yes.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 16, notices of motion. 16.1, the Deputy Mayor has a 16.1.1, a recommendation, a report there to do with the Whyalla jetty additional seating. Do you wish to move that and then speak to it, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, in considering there were 3 dot points put forward, and that third dot point there about the underutilisation of the benches on the diagonal concrete boulevard. I'd love to know, is that sounds like a cost-effective way to achieve the immediate goal by moving something that's underutilised into an area that is absolutely, there's about 5 community groups I've spoken to that really would love to see seating there. I love the vision of addressing that area specifically with the economic stimulus plan. 12 months, I think, is too long to wait. So I'd love to see that third option put in place. That third dot point that's on page 244 of the agenda, and then also to see that longer term utilisation of the landscape design and how we can include things like some of the feedback from the community is ramping the curb next to the footpath. So right at the end there's a disabled car park, but it's quite hard to get up onto the footpath, and so just ramping that. Literally a bucket of asphalt or a bucket of tar was thrown around. Not literally, but that was the metaphor of the size of the job. That would really make a huge difference. The concrete pad, so when we relocate these seats, to extend the concrete pad to allow space for a wheelchair to sit next to the relocated seat, if we can include that. And then longer term, a drinking fountain at the end of the breakwater before the jetty has been suggested as well, which I think would be quite well utilised. And I guess all of this is going to be utilised by all users. So I think this is a move in the right direction. So the last point there is shade, but I know that that's been included as part of that longer term vision. So having shaded seated areas would be ideal.
Thank you for the explanation, Deputy Mayor.
Any other questions?
Well, we have a recommendation there as a notice of motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Border. Somebody, councillor Todd, you're seconding it? We have a motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 18, questions without notice. Do we have any questions without notice? Councillor Todd.
Oh, sorry, no, I just.
Oh. Councillor Simpson. Oh, yes, Councillor Simpson.
I do. A week or maybe 10 days ago, we were given information, or we were given a copy of a radio interview that our Premier gave to ABC, which I thought was extremely informative on the government's view and position on GFG. My question is, why didn't we share that on our website?
I'm not sure. I'll have to take that on notice. Was it requested to your knowledge?
No. But my view is that the ABC regional would have an audience of about 5, and we have a bigger audience, and the information contained in that report, which was the benefit of everybody that's worried about what's happening at GFG.
Oh, Sean, you're online? Sorry.
Yes, I'm online. We have shared several interviews over the journey. Do you know exactly which one you're talking about, Councillor Simpson?
I'm talking about the 15-minute one with the Premier.
Okay, I'll have to take that on notice and just go back and double check which ones we've shared and we haven't, and we can certainly revisit that.
Okay, I'll give you the date shortly.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knox.
I had 6 questions that I was going to ask, but after discussion with His Worship this afternoon, he informs me that I can't ask questions 1, 2 and 3. 1 related to staff working from home, 2 related to out-of-town staff travelling to and from, do they travel in council time? And the other one related to private use of a council vehicle. And I was told that I wasn't able to ask them because they were HR matters not within the purview of council. So in regard to 1 and 2, I won't ask them. But in relation to question 3, I will ask, because we have a register of salaries and interests. And the register of salaries and interests should clearly show who has private use of motor vehicles. So I believe that I'm quite within my rights to ask that question. So question number 3 is, how many staff have private use of a council vehicle? Does that private use include all of South Australia? And are any able to take vehicles interstate for their own purposes?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll have to refer that.
I'm happy to have it taken on notice.
Yeah, I can take the first one. I can give you the exact number soon. I'll just have to look that up. In regards to the second and third part, so yes, the council's vehicle policy is that use is within South Australia only, except with permission of the CEO and at their own cost for fuel. So the CEO can grant use outside of South Australia on a case-by-case basis, and they have to pay for their own fuel. Okay.
The other one is question 4, is in relation to the CEO's appraisal. We need to start that very shortly. And I'm just wondering, has council started to advertise for external consultants to conduct the CEO's appraisal? Can I be assured that this will be an open process and not just targeting certain individuals' businesses? And finally, will the tenderers be asked to submit their own processes to conduct the appraisal?
Through the Mayor, the process hasn't started as yet in terms of seeking an independent advisor to advise the council in terms of the CEO's performance review process. That will actually commence after Christmas. We will bring to council the process for going out to find a relevant and skilled person or organisation to undertake that process.
Okay, thank you. Number 5 is one that really troubles me, and it should trouble council. The former McCritchie Crescent School continues its deterioration and vandalism. What action is currently being taken by council? Because I fear this will end up the same way as Bevan Crescent and will become a huge financial millstone around council's neck.
Thank you, councillor.
Thank you through the mayor. Certainly, as you would be aware, McCritchie Crescent School is privately owned and occupied, and at this stage, no action has been taken by council. There is no rubbish or junk on the land that we have observed, and the vegetation is primarily blue bush and salt bush. The windows are already boarded, and they're boarded from the inside, and we have not received any complaints from the surrounding residents in terms of vandalism. We will ensure that this property is on the program of regular inspections by the Regulatory Services team to ensure that should vandalism and should the area become into disrepair, that we get onto it straight away.
I suggest they need to go and have a look.
Okay, thank you.
The last question that I have, and I did speak to the CEO about this, and I was informed there was going to be a report to this meeting which would have addressed my question and provided the answers, but it relates to a trip to Canberra that we recently, three staff recently undertook. I'm just wondering what the purpose of that was and why it was necessary to send 3 staff.
We will be providing a verbal report to that this evening during the confidential session.
Thank you, councillor. Any further questions?
No, sorry, the question I put in with Kathy answered about the opening of the Foreshore Cafe, so that's been answered. So,
thank you, councillor. There are no further questions. Thank you for those. Item 18, questions without notice. Do we have any questions without notice? I knew that. Thank you. Item 19. Motions without notice. Do we have any motions without notice? In that case, moving on to item 20, we get to the consideration of confidential items. So at that juncture, I will need somebody to move that we are about to go into confidence.
Yeah.
Move councillor Westerman, seconded councillor Simpson. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried.